Why does my focus fall apart at the end of the week? By Friday afternoon, your attention starts behaving differently. Not dramatically, not alarmingly. It doesn't shut down. It thins. It loosens. It stops holding tension the way it did earlier in the week. Your calendar is starting to empty. Your inbox is quieter. Monday is visible again, but not close enough to feel real. You're still working, still answering messages, still showing up in all the visible ways that count, but the grip is gone. Decisions take longer to settle. Standards soften just enough to be invisible while it's happening. Tasks slide forward into Monday with explanations that feel reasonable, even responsible in the moment. Nothing feels urgent anymore, even when nothing has actually changed. This is usually where people mislabel the experience. They call it exhaustion. They call it burnout. They assume they're running out of discipline. But if that were true, the collapse would be obvious. You'd feel depleted. You'd feel spent. That's not what this feels like, though. This feels like authority leaving early. All week, your behavior has been stabilized by external structure. Deadlines with immediate consequences. Expectations that applied pressure whether you felt motivated or not. Roles that required you to show up a certain way even if you never consciously agreed to them. That structure hasn't disappeared on Friday, but its consequences feel delayed. And systems respond to perceived distance, so your attention reallocates. Without you deciding to, focus shifts from execution to anticipation, from precision to preservation, from finishing to escaping. Not because you stopped caring, but because the internal signal that says this still matters right now has weakened. That's why your focus feels unreliable at the end of the week. Not because you can't concentrate, but because authority is no longer exerting pressure in the present tense. This is the subtle failure mode of Fridays. People assume the problem is energy, so they loosen further. They multitask. They half finish. They tell themselves, they've earned the right to coast. And because nothing breaks immediately, the behavior reinforces itself. But the issue isn't failure. It's containment. Focus depends on authority. When authority weakens, attention fragments. You stay busy without being decisive. You feel productive without being complete. You move without actually closing anything. And here's the part most people never notice. Your system remembers how you exit a role. When Friday ends with open loops, deferred decisions, and softened standards, authority doesn't shut down cleanly. It leaks. It follows you into the weekend as background noise, a low-grade sense that something is unfinished even when nothing is scheduled, a restlessness that feels like freedom but never quite restores you. That's why weekends sometimes fail to reset you, and why Mondays feel heavier after an easy Friday. Not because the work got harder, because the system never fully disengaged. Authority never stood down, it just slipped. So the solution isn't to force focus at the end of the week. It isn't to push harder, and it isn't to treat Friday like a reward you've earned the right to waste. The solution is a deliberate exit. One clear decision before you stop. One explicit boundary that says, this is finished and this will resume. One visible act of closure that tells your system authority is standing down on purpose, not eroding quietly. That single act restores containment. It allows focus to end cleanly instead of dissolving. It gives your nervous system permission to disengage without dragging ambiguity into the weekend. When authority exits intentionally, rest actually restores. When it doesn't, rest turns into low-level anxiety disguised as freedom. So if your focus feels strange at the end of the week, understand this. Nothing is wrong with you. Your system is transitioning again. And when you manage that transition instead of ignoring it, Focus doesn't fall apart. It powers down. This is Fish Motivates. Take what matters, leave the rest behind.